If this is the first time I'm meeting you, this is my little corner of the internet where I like to go over the DORA capabilities and some other things, some other ideas that I have in my head. I've really wanted to share some of the concepts that I've had in my heart for a long time, and now I'm finally getting the opportunity to do that. Before jumping into things a whole lot, who am I? I've been a developer for over a decade, and I've been a software consultant for almost half of that. I feel really strongly that I need to share a bunch of thoughts, and so that's what I'm doing here. One thing that I want to sell a lot is that as engineers, as developers, we have the solution. Software is solved. What I mean by that is not AI, but DORA here, this website is the answer to how to do engineering. They come up with this in a very scientific way. We have the solution. This is the solution. I promise you that. Another quick item of business. I'm going to be using this capability catalog. It is under a Creative Commons license, is under this Creative Commons license. My content is under the same Creative Commons license. The thing I'm talking about today is user-centric focus. I've had a lot of thoughts about this, and the way that I frame it in my head is with an isomorphic pattern. An isomorphic pattern, as I'm defining it here, this isn't a term that I've heard from somebody else. I'm making up this term, so bear with me on it. An isomorphic pattern is a pattern that exists in two completely different scenarios, but it's the same pattern. For example, if I see a pattern in my code and then I go out in the world and somehow I see the same pattern in my relationships with friends or family, then I would call that an isomorphic pattern. The problem that I'm going to be talking about today is the problem space and solution space pattern. If I'm thinking about code specifically, the problem space is the caller and the solution space is the callee. If I am the caller, I have a problem that needs solved. If I'm the callee, I'm solving the problem of the caller. The same pattern exists in business. The business itself is the provider of the solution, so it lives in the solution space. The customer is the one that has the problem, right? I, as the customer, have an issue and I need to have that problem solved by the business, and therefore the problem space is the customer and the solution space is the business. In productivity, I might have a goal, and my goal right now is to make a YouTube video. Anything I do that is not serving making a YouTube video isn't a part of the solution space. The goal in this case would be the problem space. In general, the pattern that I'm thinking about here is I have a problem and I have a solution to that problem. And there's different characteristics that I can start to think about. All of these applications of the same general pattern, the same general isomorphic pattern, they're going to have all the same characteristics. So if I learn a lesson about this being my functions and how my functions work, I can use that same lesson to help me accomplish a goal like making a YouTube video. The DORA capability page is really telling us stuff about the business example I have, but we can apply that to all the other places as well. Let me read this first paragraph because it's a little bit jargon heavy. When we go through it, it'll start to kind of make sense. All software is made for human users. The true worth of any technology, from a high visibility front-end interface to an unseen back-end process, is determined by its usefulness to the individual at the conclusion of the value chain. What does that mean? The only reason the callee matters is because of this value, or in other words, the individual at the conclusion of the value chain. If my callee is the business and my caller is the customer, the only reason that the customer has to interact with my business is because of this value. Anything else doesn't matter. However, complex technology stacks and intricate supporting systems can often obscure the essential connection between the act of creating software and the benefit it eventually provides. I'm very guilty of this. I love my NeoVim config. I love my dot files. I love going out and writing code that doesn't matter. It's actually just fun to me. The value to me is actually the fun of doing it. It's entertainment. But at the end of the day, nobody's using it but me. And so you could argue the value of it. What does this mean from the function perspective? Anything I'm doing in this callee that isn't useful, any dead code I have here that isn't actually benefiting my value here, I should just get rid of it. What does it mean from the business perspective? I've seen a lot of business processes that honestly don't need to exist. We end up sitting there twiddling our thumbs, doing some random thing, sitting in meetings that don't matter. If it doesn't help fulfill the requirements, we don't need to do it. What does this mean from a productivity perspective? Don't do unfocused activities, do focused activities. Continuing on the DORA page, when organizations know and understand users' needs, they increase the likelihood of building features that address real problems rather than just shipping shiny but hardly used features. Our goal is to make useful stuff. My goal as a creator of these videos is to help whoever's on the other side of this camera. I want to be a benefit, and hopefully I am. I'll leave it as an exercise for you to read the rest of this, and I'll just give you my key takeaways that might be my unique experience or might be my unique perspective. Do focused activities. If it's not a part of your goal, don't do it. If it's not helping the user, don't do it. Don't do unfocused activities. Faster feedback means more improvement. This is an important concept from the highest level all the way down to the lowest level. This one's a little bit more complicated. Share problem space information with solution space implementers. What does this mean? If I don't know what the interface is supposed to be here, it's going to be really difficult for me to write the callee. If I don't understand the customer's needs really well and the requirements really well, then the product I'm going to build is going to be the wrong thing. Well, I know that test-driven development is super controversial. It is very usage-centric. You have to think about the problem space before you start thinking about the solution space. If you don't know what code to write, that means you don't fully understand the problem before you start writing the solution. I've heard a lot of people say, hey, I don't like TDD because I only understand what I'm writing while I'm actually building the thing. And I would argue you actually don't understand the problem well enough if you don't understand how to write the interface to your solution. If I don't know how to design this line of code, how the caller gets called and what the return value is, it almost doesn't matter what I write in here. I still don't understand the problem well enough. Don't do stuff for the sake of doing stuff. Let actions start from the problem space, not the solution space. Let what you're doing in your head or what your actions are start from the problem that you're having inside of the caller space or inside of the problem space, and let the solution form. Don't try to create a solution and then slap it into that caller. If we're thinking about the solution space when we start doing stuff like writing code or trying to implement something, and we're not thinking about the value to the customer and we're not thinking about the value to the caller, start actions from the problem space. What would I like you to do at the end of this video? The first thing I'd like is if you would put yourself in the problem space's shoes. So filling out the sentence, put yourself in the user's shoes, put yourself in the caller's shoes, put yourself in the viewer's shoes. For me right now, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Put yourself in the reader's shoes. Another concept I want to touch on that has to do with this reader bullet point is when you're writing code, you're not only writing something that is going to be executed, you're writing a letter to the next person that has to read that code and come back and edit it. If you think about your code as a letter to the poor sap who ends up having to read your code, you're going to change the way that you're thinking about it. Honestly, you're probably the sucker that's going to have to read it. So be nice to that poor sucker. The next thing I want you to do is like, comment, and subscribe. Fast feedback is super important for developers. It's super important for product owners. It's super important for me. The last thing I'd like to say is please stay humble. I've noticed that when I get too in my own head, I kind of lose my smarts. Staying smart is really important for the user and it's really important for you. If you can, try to stay humble. Try to listen as much as you can and try to be the best person that you can in whatever scenario you're in. Try to be the better man. Thanks for sticking around till the end. See you in the next one.